Hey, how you doing? My name's Ryan, and recently I got scammed on eBay trying to buy a collectible minifigure. The listing I saw for a Comic-Con Lego Spider-Woman figure was just too enticing, almost too good to be true. So I'm sure you can imagine my surprise when this showed up in the mail. This dinky knockoff minifigure, not even a replica like from Lego Brick, but like the kind you'd find on Etsy for $6. Now, I spent a not insignificant amount of money on this figure. I can assure you it was more than $6. So a couple of screenshots just might save my hide in this case, as I'm pursuing to get a refund as well as take the seller's shop down off of eBay. But could I have avoided this fate? What were the mistakes I made in this purchase, and what precautions did I take that could help me out? I'll be sure to answer all those questions and more in this video, so consider this your guide to avoid being scammed on eBay. The first tip, know the figure you want to buy inside and out. And by the way, all of these notes also apply to buying sets on eBay as well. You want to know the print of the figure you're buying and all the little details to weed out any customs or knockoffs on eBay. So take this listing for a Comic-Con Spider-Man figure. Is something off? Well, if you know Lego, you might recognize this figure as the body of the Tanker Truck Showdown figure and the head of the retail comic figure. So this is not the elusive Comic-Con figure the seller purports it to be, nor is it worth the $4,000 list price. Now, some listings aren't as obvious, like She-Hulk here, which has most of the official pieces on display except for her hair, and the description makes no mention of this discrepancy. But the higher prices on both Jennifer and Spidey just might fool someone, so it's also important to know what the usual price is for the figure you're trying to buy, so you can avoid any offers that look too good to be true. Remember, a good deal does not always equal a fair deal. Take this listing for an incomplete symbiote Spider-Man figure from Comic-Con. It may look like a great deal, you're getting almost an entire Comic-Con figure for pretty darn cheap. But if you know the figure itself, only one part of the Comic-Con symbiote Spider-Man suit is exclusive, the head. The torso and legs come from a very cheap Venom figure, and you can buy that for under $10 on Bricklink. So while the listing may seem fair at first, it's quite the ripoff, as the only exclusive part is not included, so this has no business being so expensive. However, remember on eBay that every low price is not always the final price, as auctions are a huge part of the platform. Take a look at this Cloud City Boba Fett listing, for example. The seller provides all the possible documentation that this figure is real, all the photos necessary to prove that. However, the price is suspiciously low at under $200 for a usual $1,000 figure. However, this is just the starting bid. In fact, the seller relisted the figure sometime later at a higher starting price, possibly because his initial $200 starting bid seemed so suspiciously low, people might not have bid on it, thinking it was fake. Now, in the case of me being scammed, while the images matched the real deal, the price was suspiciously low. It was still expensive, but much less than what I'd expect to pay for a Comic-Con Spider-Woman figure. So perhaps I should have been a bit more critical with this listing, given the somewhat alluring price. But how about my next tip? Check every photo and description very carefully. Look for words like custom or recreation, as sometimes the figure's images can look real, but the seller might not want you to realize it's a custom until it's too late. Sometimes sellers know fewer people search for customs on eBay, so their item listing will show up more frequently without that search term in the title. I see this trick happen a lot with Mr. Gold listings on eBay. Here's a great example. Look at the title and the photos. Everything seems real, right, and a good deal, but hop down to the description and there, almost hidden in the fine print, is the notation that this is a custom. It's kind of a perfect trick, as the seller has plausible deniability in that they told you it's a custom, but some overly eager foolhardy buyer just might mistake this for the real deal. Sometimes there is no fine print, but the photos give away the game. Here's a real Mr. Gold listing, for example. All the photos look correct, all the packaging looks correct, there's even proof of purchase with the card that fits inside of the Mr. Gold package. Everything looks great here. Now compare this to a similar listing for a quote brand new Mr. Gold, and you can see the bag looks entirely different, even has a number on it, which is not how Mr. Gold is packaged. And the price also speaks to the fact this is a knockoff without anybody telling you it's a knockoff. But even worse than a misleading listing is one that flat out lies. What if the image looks like the real Spider-Man figure from Comic-Con? Could it still be fake? Well, here you can try a reverse image search on the photos used in the eBay listing. Sometimes a scammy seller will use legitimate photos from someone else to give their listing legitimacy. I posted this example on my community page a while ago as it perfectly illustrates what stolen photos look like. I'd use a website like TinEye or Google reverse image search to make sure the photos don't pop up in someone else's listing. Now with Spider-Woman, neither the words custom or recreation were in the title or the description, and all the photos did seem original. Before my next tip, you know what's free and definitely not a scam? Subscribing to this channel for more awesome LEGO videos. Now if you're still not convinced and your scam spidey senses are still tingling, time to open up the chat and start asking questions. I'm not saying go full-on interrogation mode. I mean, after all, you still want to buy the item if it ends up being legitimate, so you don't want to piss anybody off here. But use the chat to gain confidence in your purchase. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask how they got the figure to establish a source. If they answer with they bought it at a garage sale or flea market, it might not be the real deal. But if they say they bought it at a convention or they're a collector and they bought it on another auction, it might be more legitimate. Be sure to ask for additional photos of the neck and legs for the LEGO logo if you don't already have those photos in the listing. Ask if the figure is made from official LEGO plastic as well. A reputable seller who wants to sell their figure will be sure to give you any photos necessary to give you confidence in the purchase. If a seller tries to skirt around your questions and not give any answers, you might want to stay away. Now, as with the case with Spider-Woman, this might be where I dropped the ball. I didn't really ask many questions. I did ask if it was official LEGO plastic, and he did respond yes, but I could have asked for more photos of the neck and legs to make sure I was buying the real deal. But thankfully, I followed this next tip perfectly, and it just might be the key to my refund. That being, save all the evidence of any expensive buy. You want to take screenshots of the listing and description, you want to make sure you have proof of what you intended to buy, and save all chat logs of any conversation you have with the seller. That evidence proved invaluable to my case towards eBay, as I had photos of a real Comic-Con Spider-Woman figure, photos of the chat saying, "This is real LEGO," and then photos of what I actually received, which is a knockoff. The listing said nothing about a knockoff figure, so with my proof, I can conclude the seller lied about this figure being genuine LEGO. And without that proof, I would never have gotten a refund because the seller no longer exists anymore. And that's kind of the risk of buying from shops that have little to no reviews or very few items in their inventory. Sometimes they're just a collector trying to get rid of one figure, but sometimes they're a scam shop making it really easy for them to just wipe their presence off the web when they get one successful hit. That was the story here, and when I contacted eBay, I sent them all my evidence and got my refund. Now, with the scammer off the site and my refund in hand, I felt pretty good, but also kind of let down. I did still want that Spider-Woman figure, and I ended up finding another listing on eBay, vetted that seller out wonderfully, and got the real figure in hand. But while eBay can be like the Wild West, you have to remember not every seller is a scammer, and not every seller is a collectible expert either. That's one of the joys of eBay and why you can get such good deals sometimes. But it brings me to the most important tip of all when buying on eBay. Be critical, but don't be cruel. Not every seller will be as experienced as you are, especially if you know exactly what you want and have years of collecting under your belt. In fact, a lot of sellers will be just as disappointed as you to find out what they have is a knockoff. I've had plenty of conversations with eBay sellers that had no idea they had a knockoff on their hands, and they were very thankful for how I handled letting them know they had a knockoff. I saved them a lot of heartache. You have to imagine that most people would rather learn what they have is fake from a kind potential buyer than from a furious customer who feels like they got ripped off. eBay, in my mind, should not be the be-all, end-all for minifigure purchases. If you want the highest level of confidence, go to Bricklink, but you'll pay the highest prices there. But if you want some good deals, it comes with a bit of risk, and that's what makes eBay so much fun to look for figures for, but not always my main hunting grounds when I'm looking for that one collectible minifigure. Now granted, I'll use these tips to some degree here or there when I'm buying, let's say, a retail figure like a Thor or even a Hela. But for the high-value collectible Comic-Con figures, or like a Mr. Gold or a Cloud City Boba Fett, you really want to be careful and you want to follow these tips to make sure you don't get scammed on eBay. And if you do, you have all the evidence you need to get that refund and find a better, reputable seller. So I hope you use these tips to navigate the crazy world of eBay, and if you have any wild stories of eBay purchases, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.